in a public setting, an extrovert, when they're in public speaking to a crowd, to an audience, they leave that stage energized. They just absorb all this energy from the crowd. Whereas an introvert, we give everything out. We just give all of our energy out to that crowd. So we are exhausted when we leave that stage.
James Rollins has sold millions of books. He's been at a lot of author events, he's been on stage a lot, and he says that every time he steps on stage, it drains him physically. And what he reveals next is part of the creative dream that no one talks about.
I chose before becoming an author. My career was veterinary medicine. I became a veterinarian, had my own clinic for 15 years, and I became, I think, a veterinarian because I like animals more than I like people. And so, to me, I thought veterinary medicine, I could just deal with animals, and I can not really have to deal with the public too often, too much, which is totally wrong.
Every creative hits this wall. The dream requires you to become something you're not.
And I thought as an author, I just could sit in my office, write my stories, give it to the publisher, and
And that
hide
would be it,
behind
huh?
on my name a bit. And but you learn pretty quickly, even as a veterinarian, that I always like this definition between introvert and extrovert. And I found this to be true, is that
We think success will make us more confident, but for many creatives, success just raises the stakes.
in a public setting, an extrovert, when they're in public speaking to a crowd, to an audience, they leave that stage energized. They just absorb all this energy from the crowd. Whereas an introvert, we give everything out. We just give all of our energy out to that crowd. So we are exhausted when we leave that stage. So, and I still find that today, even though I can, do my dog and pony show, book talk and be on stage very comfortably now after a while, but still I'm exhausted, even though it's now something I can do over and over again. 45 books, 45 book tours, you learn, how to stage yourself pretty well.
Well,
But it is a bit of an act. I mean, some of it is, again, I'm just needing, it's like a comic going on tour. You go on tour, you learn what works, what doesn't.
creatives think the work is the art, but the real art is learning how to survive the spotlight.
And so over the 45 books, I've learned, what are people in the audience wanting from me? And I give it to them. And but still, every single time, even though I'm comfortable doing it on stage, no one can probably tell that I'm very uncomfortable on stage. Afterwards, I am physically exhausted. It just drains.
This is the part of the dream no one warned you about. Burnout kills more creative careers than money ever does. If you don't manage your energy, you can't manage your career.
Me. So I still, even though I can put on that show, there's that introvert that still has to sort of struggle with that energy that I give out to that crowd that I have to sort of recharge my batteries afterwards.
Were there any skills or tricks that you had to kind of learn early on when you're kind of breaking out of that, saying, okay, I've got to go do this. How am I going to actually get in front of them and give that perception of energy? I mean, what was that
No,
like?
because I had attended book talks before from other authors, and so, but I never really paid attention. I just enjoyed whatever was going on stage. But once I became an author, I started studying. I'd go to book talks and I'd study what other authors are doing and what worked for them, what got a response from the crowd, what didn't get a response from the crowd. What seldom gets a response from the crowd is when an author does a reading. A lot of people think, oh, are you going to do a reading? Oh, no, I'm not going to do a reading because unless you can do funny voices, you should not be doing your own reading. I've just seen when the authors try to read their material, their voice drops in tone, they become very monotone, and they could just see, looking at the audience, they're falling asleep. You're losing that attention. So I just don't do readings. So that's again just one thing I learned from just watching the other authors talk. And then again, just experience is again, I'm always sort of gauging how the crowd is reacting and trying to see, well, that didn't work. I'm not doing that again. Or, wow, that got a really strong response. So I'm going to do that next time again.
You don't need to become an extrovert. You just need a system that protects your energy. If you've ever felt like the dream is draining you, you're not alone. Even the greats feel it. Make sure to stop by lightmindedarts.com where you're going to find books by me like One for the Money, Two for the Soul, Swing Low, The Hangman of the Woods, and Hard Boiled Cabbage, Book 1 in my new Gearlock series. You're also going to find short films by me and a whole bunch of articles about how you can avoid the struggling artist trap. Folks, Jim left us with some really awesome things today, but I did not include all of them in this YouTube video here because our conversation was over an hour. And so if you want to catch the entire conversation that I had with him, jump on over to the Light Minded Arts podcast. The link will be in the descriptions below. And believe me, you're going to want to jump over there and listen to the whole thing because, he's been interviewed by a lot of people over the years, but none of them have asked him the questions that I was asking him today. And so you're going to get a fresh look at our favorite author, James Rollins. I hope to see you there. I'll talk to you next time.